evening to you. Welcome to Vantage Point. We are coming to you on TV1 to your living rooms in order to talk about many topics that you've been watching every day, day in and day out, which really determines the political climate of the country. Well, to talk about those topics, we would like to have your comments, your views, and even your questions. You can send them over to Newsfirst.lk. Well, to talk about those topics, we've got Dr. Vantage with us today in the studio. A very good evening to you, Dr. Vantage.
Hi, Stephanie.
Well, let's just start off with the number of protests that are taking place in the northern province. What's really going on, Dr. Vantage?
Well, there are many interpretations, none of which I think address the main point. I'll just run through the interpretations. The government says that Mr. Vigneshwaran is an extremist, but so also is the joint opposition. And they are, if not operating in cahoots, they are mimicking each other and they're running parallel. And that the government is working with the moderate, Mr. Sambandhan, and the TNA. The joint opposition says Mr. Vigneshwaran and Mr. Sambandhan are just running a bad cop, good cop scam. It's only a division of labor. Now, to me, all of these may be right or wrong. Some may be right, some may be wrong. But none of it is important. What is most important is that if we have a new constitution which confers significantly more power on the provinces, that power is not going to Mr. Sambandhan, who's sitting in parliament. So it doesn't matter whether he's actually a moderate or not. That power is not going to the joint opposition, so it doesn't matter whether they're extremists or not. That power is going to Mr. Vigneshwaran and to Mr. Nizam in the eastern province, both of whom have behaved rather badly in recent months. Now, even in a classroom, or even when we were kids, I don't remember our parents rewarding us if we behaved badly, Stephanie. There are rewards if you behave well. There are punishments or disincentives if you behave badly. Because if you behave badly and you get rewarded, you keep on behaving badly. So, the problem I have is that with Mr. Vigneshwaran behaving the way he has been behaving from 2015, not at the beginning, but from 2015 when he moved the genocide resolution in the Northern Provincial Council, and Mr. Nizam having behaved in the way he did towards the Navy officer and so on. Why on earth would we want to usher in a new constitution which immediately and automatically gives significantly more power to precisely Mr. Vigneshwaran and the Chief Minister of the East? What's the sense of that? I mean, if you think Mr. Sambandhan is a moderate, you give him more power. But the moment the Northern Provincial Council becomes more powerful, then the focus, the center of gravity of Tamil politics will shift to Mr. Vigneshwaran and not to the parliamentary group of the TNA. By having a quasi-federal constitution, you're actually weakening the Tamil moderates who are in parliament, if they are moderates.
But
I'm willing to concede
is there any prospects of that happening in the future?
Well, that's what the Prime Minister said, that's what the former President has said, and that's what the Foreign Minister has said. Now, I'm not going by what the JAO says they said. I'm going by what's on the record.
But that requires a considerable amount of support from the Parliament itself, even if there is going to be a move like that.
Well, if there's going to be a move like that, it's going to need more than parliamentary support. It's going to need a victory at a referendum. And given what happened in Colombia, which kind of shocked me, and what happened in Britain, I really don't see the government winning at that referendum. But you know, the government doesn't have to take that risk. And I'm not sitting here, Stephanie, as somebody who wants to see the government go for a referendum and get defeated. It doesn't matter one way or the other to me, so long as the national interest is served. And I think that the government can address the problem of the ethnic issue without making the risky move of going in for a brand new constitution? Why do that? You can reform what exists.
And what do you think is a root cause for these protests and this sort of tension to happen in the northern province? Is there a root cause, a fundamental aspect that they are fighting for?
There is. You know, Mr. Vigneshwaran used to be a good guy, now he's not such a good guy. The former Chief Minister, Mr. Varadaraja Perumal, was a Marxist, and then when he became Chief Minister, he started demanding that the military be withdrawn. The same things that Mr. Vigneshwaran is saying. So what's happening here? There's something happening. Let me go even further back. When Mr. Bandaranaike signed an agreement with Mr. Chalvanayagam, which is called the BC Pact, the Bandaranaike-Chalvanayagam Pact, on devolution to the provinces, some people in the north started an agitation tarring the letter Shri from the CTB buses. Now, the buses had been sent to the north not to run over people. There had been a complaint that there aren't enough buses. And the new government of Mr. Bandaranaike had taken over public transport from the private sector and initiated the Ceylon Transport Board, taken over the private bus companies. And then of course he had won on a ticket of single only, so the number plates of the buses had Shri on it. Now this is the time that he had come to an agreement with Mr. Chalvanayagam. But some Tamil radicals started tarring the letter Shri. And then Sinhalese radicals started tarring Tamil name boards in the south. So we've been doing this for 50 years. The question is why? Why did Varadaraja Perumal suddenly go crazy when he became Chief Minister? Why did Mr. Vigneshwaran do the same thing? What's happening? Stephanie, I mean, if you aren't coughing when you come into this room, but you start coughing here, and then it happens to somebody else like me, or somebody who's doing the next program, and somebody who did the earlier program, then the problem is something to do probably with the air conditioner. Similarly, if Mr. Vigneshwaran, who was okay as a Supreme Court judge, suddenly starts talking about Mr. Prabhakaran as a great hero during his election campaign, what is wrong is the place, not the person. Now what's wrong with the place? What's wrong with the place is that if you actually live there, it's 18 miles from Tamil Nadu. And the media that you absorb, the radio you tune into, the movies you see, the television channels you pick up, the books you read, a lot of it comes from Tamil Nadu, which is far closer to you than Colombo is. And what has been happening for decades? If you take the history of the political history of India, Tamil separatism started in Tamil Nadu long before it started in Sri Lanka. It stopped when India and China went to war in 1962, and then everybody decided that there's no room for separatism in any part of India because there's a big challenge from China. So they exported that sentiment, those aspirations, that project of a country for the Tamil people was exported across the water 18 miles away to Sri Lanka. And it's still happening because the Tigers, when the Tigers used to be there, now I was talking about a period way before the Tigers, but when the Tigers were in Tamil Nadu from the 1970s, they invested a lot of money, including black money, in the film industry. They bought up politicians, they bought up people, they used to go to schools and distribute leaflets. So for decades, you've had Tamil Eelam sentiment growing in Tamil Nadu, but not to do with Tamil Nadu, but to do with neighboring Sri Lanka. The proof of that pudding was in the eating last year during the Tamil Nadu State Assembly elections when Jayalalitha, not a fringe person, but the main Chief Minister, ran for office on a platform which actually said in writing that she will support setting up a Tamil Eelam.
Yeah,
so
but times
that's the radicalization.
But times have changed.
Between last year and this year?
No, as in times have changed since Tamil Nadu influenced the northern province, because in the 21st century geopolitics doesn't really play a huge
Well, your
part.
television plays a role.
Yes, so we have more
it's more
influence.
globalized, it's more integrated.
We have one identity, that's Sri Lankan. So when it
Some
comes
of us do.
when it comes under that banner, I think the South should really influence the North in doing
It
so.
should, but it doesn't happen that way.
We'll continue that discussion right after this short commercial break. Welcome back. You are watching Vantage Point. Well, before the break, I spoke to you about how the South has to influence the northern province more than the influence Tamil Nadu has on the northern province, considering the times we're living now in the 21st century, when there is internet and all sorts of things that can influence people, where it can really extend that soft power.
But what about
northern
Kashmir?
province.
Why is the terrorism in Kashmir? Kashmir has a special status under the Indian constitution. It is more autonomous power than any linguistic state in India, but still there's terrorism. Why? Because of what's being pumped across in terms of propaganda from neighboring Pakistan. It's not even the Pakistani government. These are radical political parties in Pakistan, in that area, which thrive on the Kashmiri question, and they keep pumping this propaganda across. So you have generations growing up with these ideas. That's what is happening in the northern province of Sri Lanka.
But we've taken considerable amount of steps in order to bring in reconciliation. We are forming committees, we are distributing leaflets, we are making sure that there is enough broadcast to do with programs, concerning reconciliation. But there's very little influence of these type of measures having an impact on the northern province. There should be a reason for it.
Well,
What
you
do think
mentioned
is the
geopolitics. You mentioned geopolitics, Stephanie. Now, geopolitics means that certain things are given. Your location is given. Your demography is given. That being the case, you have to be very careful when you devolve more power to what is a sensitive border province, which is 18 miles away from 80 million co-ethnics who are supporting secession in that border province. So, what you need is a policy of managing the north and east. You can't solve the problem forever. There's no solution, because you have Tamil Nadu next door any more than you have a permanent solution to the Kashmiri problem with Pakistan next door, or from the Pakistani point of view with India next door. So in certain cases, geopolitics dictates that what you need is prudent management, not a utopian attempt at a solution. There is no solution to some problems.
But
you can only manage them intelligently. Sri Lanka's north and east provides a case in point. You can only manage the place, and you must not try to manage it by giving more power to people who obviously don't know how to behave politically, such as the chief ministers of those two provinces.
Well, Dr. Jayatilka, that leads us to another topic, that is SAARC, where now India is Pakistan is under a lot of fuel about wanting to go ahead with SAARC, but then India and other countries, neighboring countries that are allies of India, are backing out of it.
Such as Sri Lanka.
Such as Sri Lanka, but they are considering. We've not given out an official statement.
We have
given out an official statement.
Your station carried it. Yeah, that we pulled out. We were one of the first to pull out.
So, is there a reason that because India is a regional power, probably that is the reason why most of the countries are backing them up when it comes to SAARC countries? Well, do you think in this backdrop it's even important that we have SAARC? Because if there is no unity, we can't run an organization that is to do with regional powers and regional country association like ASEAN or even European Union, to say. It's unity that drives them to take decisions and take considerable amount of steps towards development. But do you think SAARC is operational, is active enough to take that step forward?
Well, Stephanie, SAARC was a brainchild of Bangladesh, and Bangladesh was friendly with India. India helped create Bangladesh. Bangladesh broke away from Pakistan, but Bangladesh didn't also want to be under Indian tutelage. So what the leaders of Bangladesh, Ziaur Rahman at that time, what he thought was that the countries of South Asia need to get together just as other countries in other regions have got together. You need a regional identity. And smaller countries, that's countries smaller than India, need to band together in order to offset the huge power that India has because of its size and its population. So SAARC is something that is in Sri Lanka's interests. We are a small country. We have, let's put it this way now, let's take an individual. If you were caught in a problem between your long-standing friend who has probably done something wrong, not to you, but to your neighbor, and your very rich and huge neighbor with a huge house and lots of people in his or her family, but who has helped you on occasion but has also harmed you on occasion. What would you do? I would suggest that there are two ways of going, and Sri Lanka didn't take either. One is just to keep your mouth shut. Don't get involved. Don't take sides. That's one way of doing it. Because you can't afford to antagonize a rich, powerful neighbor who can make trouble for you, but you shouldn't let down a friend who has stood by you through thick and thin. So you keep your mouth shut, or you intervene in order to balance and try to make peace. Now Sri Lanka did neither. Historically, I mean under Mrs. Bandanayake and so on and so forth, we did try to balance between India and Pakistan. Now we neither kept our mouth shut this time, nor did we try to play a helpful role and balance. Instead, we lined up with India when India said, look, the time is not right for this, and pulled out. We were among the first to pull out with them. Now, Stephanie, that is not just wrong, it's stupid. It's stupid because when you have a friend who has supported you through thick and thin, and you stab that friend in the back, then you won't have friends again when you need them. Pakistan stood by us after July 83 during the war, when even Britain and the United States did not sell us any weapons, and this was J.R. Jayawardena's pro-Western UNP government, but they didn't get any assistance, very little. Pakistan sent us trainers to help the Sri Lankan state under the UNP during that war. In year 2000, under the SLFP, when Madam Kumaratunga was the president, the Tigers took back Elephant Pass and they were marching on Jaffna. President Kumaratunga sent a message through Lakshman Kadargama, our foreign minister, to New Delhi seeking support. Delhi said, sorry, we are not going to do that. What stopped the Tigers from taking back Jaffna? Anuruddha Ratwate, who was the Deputy Minister of Defence, spoke to President Musharraf. It was followed up by General Srilal Veerasurya, our High Commissioner, who knew President Musharraf as a military man. They were together in military academy. President Musharraf opened the Pakistan Army stores and gave us unused, brand new multi-barrel rocket launchers to save Jaffna from the Tiger offensive. That's how we saved Jaffna. Pakistan supported us throughout the war. Pakistan supported us diplomatically. I know this as our former ambassador to the UN in Geneva. India and Pakistan supported us, but even when India turned the other way, not when I was there but later, Pakistan continued to support us vocally, very firmly. Now we have just slashed Pakistan's throat. We should never have got into this. And I think another fine young person like yourself, Dr. Harinder Vidanage, Columbia University product professor in the United States, who has come back to his country now and is the head of the Bandanayake Center for International Studies, said that Sri Lanka should not have pulled out but could have used the opportunity to make peace on the sidelines of the SAARC summit. He's quite right. But we have lined up with one side, and the side that we lined up, our powerful neighbor, at one time did to us the same thing that they accused Pakistan of doing in Kashmir.
Well, with that, Dr. Jayathilaka, let's head into a short commercial break, and when we come back, we will find out how exactly this is going to play out in our favor. Well, welcome back. Dr. Jayathilaka, are we really forgetting someone? We are forgetting a huge power in the East, that's China. How exactly do you think China will have an impact on the tension that is arising between the South Asian countries? Will they make use of it?
Well, China has been a consistent friend of Pakistan. And interestingly enough, Pakistan is having military exercises with Russia as well. Now, Russia was on India's side in the Cold War and against Pakistan, and Pakistan was anti-Russia. Pakistan was dragged in by the Americans into the Afghanistan conflict and is suffering as a result because Pakistan felt that India was allied to Russia, which was correct at the time. But now it's not only China, but it's also Russia that is beginning to cultivate ties with Pakistan. I'm not saying Russia will get involved, but Russia and Pakistan are friends again after a very long time. Now, China, I think, will not allow India to crush Pakistan in a war. I don't think the United States will want a war between Pakistan and India because both are nuclear powers and things can get out of hand. But Sri Lanka has to watch this very carefully, and we did have situations like this in the past, but our leaders today seem to have forgotten how our leaders in the past handled very difficult situations, far worse than this, with great sagacity. I refer particularly to Madam Bandaranaike and also to President Premadasa. I'm taking two leaders, one each from the SLFP and the UNP, as examples in order to make my point. In 1962, there was a war between India and China. India was our great neighbor, China was our friend. Mrs. Bandaranaike didn't take sides, but she was very active in playing a role of intermediary, and she helped sponsor a peace conference in Tashkent in the Soviet Union between India and China, which finally helped settle the conflict. Then comes 1971, where India intervened to create Bangladesh out of what used to be East Pakistan. Mrs. Bandaranaike's best friend internationally, Indira Gandhi, was the Prime Minister of India. But Mrs. Bandaranaike didn't take India's side. On the contrary, she permitted Pakistani civilian aircraft, not military aircraft, to transition through Katunaika with Pakistani troops on board in civilian clothes on their way to fight in East Pakistan. Why? Because Mrs. Bandaranaike knew that if a new state were created through Indian intervention in South Asia, it was only a matter of time before we had similar problems with the Tamil North, because Tamil Nadu would mount pressure on Sri Lanka. And therefore, she felt she had to tilt towards the Islamabad-Beijing axis, Pakistan-China axis, rather than support her friend Indira Gandhi in the national interests of Sri Lanka. So, Sri Lankan leaders in the past knew how to balance in Sri Lanka's interests. You can't antagonize your giant neighbor beyond a point. You have to be friends, but you have to balance off that giant neighbor, because that's where you can have problems from, precisely because you have co-ethnics in Tamil Nadu and in your own northern province of this small island. President Premadasa had a problem similar to this SARC issue. In 1990 or 91, I can't quite remember, we were the SARC chair. India boycotted it, said conditions are not right. President Premadasa called a summit anyway. It wasn't an official SARC summit, but Nawaz Sharif, the Prime Minister of Pakistan today, was the Prime Minister then. I mean, so much for those who say, why does Mahinda Rajapaksa want to remain in politics once he's lost an election? Nawaz Sharif was Prime Minister in 1990, and then he lost elections, and now he's Prime Minister again. He came to Sri Lanka, so did the Bangladeshi leaders, and so did the other small countries. So Sri Lanka was supported by Pakistan, and it's that Pakistan that another UNP government has stabbed in the back over another Indian boycott of a SAARC summit. So Sri Lanka always tried to use China and Pakistan to balance off India, and it tried to use the other SAARC countries also to balance off India. But this new government seems to have thrown those policies overboard completely and doesn't feel the need to balance anybody off. It just says yes and amen if the suggestion comes from either India or from the United States or Britain.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jayatilaka. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for joining us. Remember, you can send in your views and comments to newsfirst@maharaja.lk, because we believe that perspective matters. This is Vantage Point.